Fitzgerald, 130 Main Street. Number 2 will be 2016-37, Stephen Silp and Jesse Ewing, 3 Ardsley Terrace. Third item will be 2017-02, Marie Gasparo, 18 Park Avenue. Fourth item will be 2016-41, Cameron and Alana Lewis, 41D North Broadway. Fifth item will be 2016-39, Linda Boff, 6 Palliser Road. The sixth item will be 2016-35, Steve and Suzanne Soleimani, 4 Bracebridge Lane. The seventh item will be 2016-31, Panos Papapanu and Ivanthia Lala, 20 Lewis Road. And the eighth item will be 2016-19, Jacqueline Leonardo and Andres Sorolnik, 17 Matheson Park. So with that, we'll begin. Mr. Riley, if you just please take the microphone and identify yourself.
Loudly into the microphone. Yeah.
So the first item
And don't shut it off.
Is it on?
All right, so the first item is 2016-27, William and Regina Fitzgerald, 130 Main Street.
Right. The last time we were at the planning board was September 7th, slightly less than 5 months ago. But the first item on the review was that we are in the historic district and we had to go to the architectural review board for their blessing on our proposal. So it was pretty obvious that they had a whole nother set of demands, so instead of, we redesigned the building from what you had seen previously, and we found the building in Wilford's Roost, and so it was pretty obvious that we were going to say that we want to renovate the existing building. This was before the addition on the side, you see that. That was, we're not sure when that was done because the foundations mirror the main building. So it was somewhere around the night, we're not sure. This is 1850, that could, we're not sure. But it's not 1950 with block wall. So our plan then, because they said, well, you know, in historic renovation, none of the lines go above the existing ridge. You know, they started to have criteria that set the pace, and I think they did a very good job in leading us in what they saw. So if you look at the dotted, that is the existing building. So we are concentrating on renovating the main structure. We're adding 1 story, that's this on the side, on top of the existing roof there right now. And then on the back, we're adding a basement and 2 floors, extra bedrooms, and I can show you that too. So we were in front of the Architecture Review Board on 4 different meetings, and eventually they voted yes to the demolition, which is a little funny, but that's what happened. So we're here. We've chatted with Doug, and we meet the, would it be safe to say we meet the zoning, we meet the setback, we meet the FAR and the...
Yeah, you're under the coverage.
Yes.
They
So-
just need to clean up the numbers a little bit, just
Right.
for the record.
Right.
Any comments? Any comments from the board members?
Well, I'm wondering, did they give you direction about, it looks like a flat roof pod on the back?
Help me out.
That's right, you're right.
Here? No, that's a slope. You see, you
I'm
can't
just trying
see
to
it,
figure out what
but it's
that is.
actually a sloping roof that goes back.
Okay,
This, yeah.
okay.
Because when you look at this, you actually see the main building. That's going back 15 feet. Like, that doesn't touch the front of the building.
Is that going to be a standing seam roof?
Yes.
that you're putting on? No, what's on the existing roof?
We're going to do standing seam on the existing...
The whole roof?
Yeah. Well,
Is that architecturally sensitive to what the original intent of, the original construction of the building was?
you have to look across the street at the standing seam on the historic building. Neither of them had standing seam. But I think they liked the idea. See, the big question that the ARB hasn't really come to grips with, there's the original, what would they be looking for the addition? You know, is it supposed to be a copy of this? Is it going to be a totally different theme? And the two architects, they actually liked a difference, continuity, but a difference. They weren't looking for all the windows be tiny like here, and so that worked very well. But that's an ongoing problem that you're going to meet when a historic building comes in, as to what's an appropriate modification to it. Because we're actually going to reproduce as best we can, you know, exactly what it was like. Right now, it just has steel columns. It was modified, but we're going to put it back to where it was.
Could I just explain one thing, make sure that the planning board understands? It's got to go back to the ARB
Right.
for final review of the architecture. This was just the kind of the threshold decision, can they change the front of the building, that's all. So there's certainly was an understanding that the ARB probably did want more changes, was the sense I got. But anyway, they do have
Well,
to go
there's a
back.
question about that, but,
Okay.
I mean,
I just wanted to make sure that the planning board understood that the ARB wasn't done with it yet.
Okay, because I'm not sure of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not sure that they're finished with us?
Right, I just, you know, I look at it, I'm not sure it's design appropriate for,
Okay.
that's why. 'Cause I'm looking at it and
All of
it's
this
all-
has come out of discussion with the ARB.
Right,
Yeah, it isn't me fighting them and then them saying they're not sure about it. Most of these modifications sort of evolved into what looks best, what's the scale.
Well, what about, also you have that second floor, that new addition that's overhanging
right.
nothing. I mean, it just looks awkward, you know, and also the standing seam. I mean, that is not sympathetic to what the original roof design was and the roof materials were of the historic building. And
Roof
and
is
to go back and
asphalt shingles.
change, well, to go back and change the original roof, which is the historic part of the building, to make it standing seam is not being sympathetic to its
The original
character.
roof was destroyed with a fire.
I understand, but the idea of the historic district is not to, you know, with additions, you want to make them, they want to be shown that they are not original. That is part of, if you go back to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation of historic buildings,
Yeah.
when you start adding additions to historic buildings, they
Don't-
want you to do something that is sympathetic, but not,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to look the same,
I like
exactly
that,
the same.
sure.
Okay?
Yep.
But then also, if you are rehabbing the historic part of the building, you don't want to change that so drastically that it's no longer the historic elements of the building either.
Yes, in principle.
I think the architecture review board would look at those issues in terms of what the standards for the Secretary of
They
the Interior
didn't,
are.
but they may the next.
Well, they should, because this district is on the National Register, so they should be looking at the Secretary of the Interior standards, because this is on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah, but-
And therefore, any rehabs that are done, or any construction that's done in the historic district, should then be in
Let
conformance
me
to those standards.
elaborate a little bit. That's the look when it existed. Well, the renovation has three, because there's no light up in the bedroom. So right now existing are three, what do we call those?
Skylights? I don't know.
No,
Transom?
dormers, thank you.
There you go.
Three dormers down that side. I mean, it's, look, it would be easier for us to do wood shingles. I mean, to do, not wood shingles, to do asphalt shingles. It'd be easier. That's more complicated, more costly.
It's easier to do, but more costly.
No. This is more costly.
Okay, then why would you do it then if it's not sympathetic to
Because
what the
they
historic
liked it,
district-
and we
No.
sort of thought it would look good, that's all.
Okay, you know what, let's take it back to the site issues, because that's our purview, and we'll leave those issues to the architecture review board to discuss. I still think, though, that the overhang, though, looks awkward, it doesn't look...
Can I tell you why that's there?
Sure.
Okay. Our program, this is much smaller than our original program. And that's an existing bearing wall, and that is 9 feet. And I have to get 3 bedrooms, so I needed more room to be able, and I like that detail. But I mean, that's there because I needed the square footage. I mean, this is as tight as you can imagine.
Okay.
Anyway.
I mean, I just, okay.
That addition upstairs, how far is that, how wide is that overhang?
Here,
Yes.
this right here, 3 feet.
Is it in the setback? I mean, is it infringe upon?
But if you see it in the,
Is there a setback in the
oh, no,
business
no, it's,
district?
the only setback is in the rear.
Any other comments on any of the issues, site issues? And I think, well, you saw Doug's comments, and then, I don't know, did you see the comments from Lucille Munns, our landscape architect?
No, I did
All right, well, you should get a copy of that too, but I'll just read them to you. So this is for 130 Main Street. This application is for the building addition to the front and rear of the existing building, as well as the proposed addition of a new carport. There's a large sugar maple that I believe will be impacted by the proposed work, and several are proposed to be removed. And then her recommendations are hire an arborist to assess the existing trees to be removed and potentially to be impacted, and to provide a landscape plan to address the mass and scaling and any potential impact to existing trees. So I think we should look at those
First of all,
items.
I think the one,
Site.
I'd love to get a copy of that.
Sure.
The one that she's thinking about is this one here, not on our property. Did she give you a size? Thank you.
The maple,
The maple tree?
that's not my tree.
At the rear of the house,
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, not to,
I'm sorry.
you have to identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
the one thing that always confused,
Joe, please
Bill
identify
Fitzgerald. The one thing that always confused me about that tree is there's a cable from that tree going to a telephone pole. The only way that tree can fall is into my house. I have no idea who gave permission to the telephone company to put that cable there. And it's always bothered me for the last 20-odd years. Because the only way that tree can go is into me. So I don't know how the telephone company, whoever owns that pole, is allowed to support the telephone pole on Main Street with a tree that's, what, 100 feet away? So anyway, that's just my only comment about the maple, but I don't own the maple. As far as I would love to see it go down, but that's none of my business.
Well, I think that the whole point is though that the work that you're doing on your property could impact the root system of that tree.
Yeah, we're
That's-
addressing that. She doesn't know that. If we did the addition as planned on the foundation, it would come very close to the thing. So we moved the foundation back and put one pier in the corner, and you can obviously get a pier down into the overhang. And so we've addressed that.
Well, you may think you've addressed that, but that remains to be seen when you present that revised plan then, and that is submitted to the landscape architect. Okay.
Why do we submit to a landscape architect?
On your next submission, Bob.
She's out.
She automatically gets
Yeah,
it.
she's out,
Okay.
so.
Make sure you, no,
Can we contact her in the next?
make sure you note it on the plan, she'll review the plan.
Yeah.
And if you want to add a note that that one pier be done by hand, it might be helpful for you.
I'm sorry?
If you put on.
Pier by hand.
Pier by hand,
Yeah,
it would be helpful.
okay.
Okay, so, are there any comments from anyone, I'm sorry, any other comments from any board members? George, this is 130 Main Street. I don't know if you have any comments regarding this particular project.
I'll give my breath. No, okay.
Okay. Any comments from anyone in the audience on this item? No? Okay. Then I think what you should do then, Bob, is address the comments from Han and from the landscape architect, and we'll see you next month.
Good, thank
Okay?
you.
All right. Okay. All right, so Hillary Chanel is recused on this matter. It's 2016-37, Stephen Silp and Jesse Ewing, 3 Ardsley Terrace.
Hello, my name is Salah Foda with Christoph Friedner, architect, and we are here for Mr. Selb and Mrs. Owen, the owners of 3 Owsley Terrace. As we submitted on December 4th our application, and we are now following on that meeting, we did respond to Han Engineering for their remarks, and at this point, we are looking to move on and see the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So you need a variance for this?
Yes,
one,
for 3
right?
variances.
Any comments from anyone on the board? No? Any comments from anyone in the audience on this matter? No? I think the only thing is you might want to take a look in a previous letter and in this month's letter, our landscape architect did suggest doing some plantings. I think you are removing one tree as part of this project. I think she was suggesting.
Yes, that was an 8-inch tree
Right.
in the way of the garage. And it's not too, as you can see, it seems almost dead in a way. And it's very close to the house. It's about 6 inches away from the house.
Are you doing any landscaping between you and the next door neighbor?
No, we are not, because there is already about 6 to 7 foot high shrubs between the properties.
Okay. All right, any other comments? No?
The only thing I would say is that for your application to the zoning board, it might be helpful for them to understand as well what happened last year with the adjacent property.
Okay, sure, we will study that.
Right, because they have a garage that juts out as far as your proposed garage does into the backyard. So I think that was one of the reasons I think that we did not have as much a problem.
Magic
with these ones. Right.
Magic.
Sure, thanks.
Marion, do you have
Yeah, I
a
prepared a
resolution?
resolution on this one. Whereas in December 2016, Steve Silpe and Jesse Ewing applied for site plan approval to extend an existing garage and construct a terrace on top of the garage on their property in 3 RC Terrace. The property is located in the View Preservation District. The garage extension would require variances for exceeding coverage, exceeding FAR, and encroaching into the required rear yard. Han Engineering reviewed the plans, and in a memo dated December 6th listed a number of issues with the site plan, most of which were addressed in a subsequent submission, which Han Engineering also reviewed. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on December 7th and February 1st. The proposed construction would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties or the adjacent right-of-way. It's a type 2 action under SECRA. Resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Proposed Garage Extension, Silpe Ewing Residence, and they're numbered, prepared by Christoph Riedner, subject to 1, receiving variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals for lot coverage, FAR, and the rear yard setback, and 2, satisfaction of item 4 in the Han Engineering Memorandum of January 31st. 1 to 3 were all related to the variance.
Any comments on the resolution? No, can I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. You're approved.
Do you want? That helps.
Thank you.
Carl, you're gonna take one of those with you.
Okay, sure.
All right, there you go, thank you.
Give this to, I think, Marion.
Thank you.
Next item is 2017-02, Marie Gasparo, 18 Park Avenue.
My name is Sam Gator, representing Marie Gasparo on a deck replacement. And
Sammy, please speak into the microphone. Just-
Is it on?
Looks like it's not. Okay, just It's for the transfers.
Okay. I just got this from Ed, the report, so I guess I'll just go through the, we're basically looking to replace an existing deck that I understand is non-conforming. It wasn't what's on the original card. So we're just basically looking to replace it in kind because it's rotting, so it's basically falling down. For what's there, it's exactly the same, but I understand we're adding about 100 square feet to the deck. So based on what I received tonight, it looks like we need to amend this and put a site plan on it and you know, show some more information on it. So we'll do that. And there's a possibility that it looks like it might exceed coverage, so we have to see if I guess that'd be next meeting, or?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, if you come back with all that information.
Come back with whatever you, get the site plan done by the deadline, and then we'll take it from there. Submit, plan on being here, and we'll see what happens.
Okay,
All right.
and we'll see. So that's all I have to do then, is just submit that before the next meeting. And
No, the deadline's 2 weeks prior.
2 weeks prior, that's what I mean, yeah, so we'll get working on it right away.
Okay. And yeah, there were no comments from the landscape architect on this matter, so I think you just addressed the comments in Han's letter,
Perfect.
and then we'll see where we're at next month.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Next item is 2016-41 Karen and Alana Lewis, 41D North Broadway.
John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Cameron and Alana Lewis. We were here last month and have been to the zoning board. The first 2 items there were variance on Han's memorandum, were variance requests which we received at the last meeting. We submitted a request to keep the existing playground equipment that is in place, but is within the wetlands buffer, and I think we provided the board information requesting a permit for that. And I think the open item that remains that we were going to take care of as soon as the weather allowed was deep pit tests and percolation tests once the ground thawed. That didn't come out very well. And there's a single note that I didn't either. And there's a note that Doug has on here about the piping down and revising that. So I think the open item maybe you guys want to discuss the wetlands.
Yes, that, and I think also there were comments from Lucille Lunds also on additional landscaping. Did you find additional trees? Did you see?
We haven't seen that.
Okay. Do we have an extra copy there? I think she's calling for some additional plants, I think, John, to replace some of the trees that are being taken out. I think also, one of the comments, I did receive a copy of the letter from the ZBA, and they recommended plantings on 3 sides of the shed that I guess is in the side yard setback or in the rear yard setback.
Those are actually shown on the drawings, so I think they were just confirming that needs to happen, but those are all already part of the plan.
Okay. I'm surprised Lucille didn't have a comment about that. It just seemed to me when I drive by there are a number of native trees that are already out there. I don't know how you're going to get shrubs to really grow that well underneath there to really.
What we've shown is understory shrubs, so there's skip laurels here, which can work in that shade, and then on this side, we've got
Speak up, or
there's skip laurels, which can work relatively well and can hide that, and then on the 2 other sides, on the other 2 sides, I think what we were showing was wax myrtle, which is something that we think could get relatively large, but it's like again, an understory that's a shade-tolerant tree. So everything we put in there was shade-tolerant, so you don't get evergreen, but you get like these semi-evergreen things that would provide some, because those can be screening in the winter.
Right. Yeah, I think the mountain laurel keeps its leaves through the winter time.
Yeah, that would be something, we're just trying to get some size, because also there's so many trees in there, it's hard to, you want something to.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, it just didn't seem like you're gonna be able to do much in the way of planting. I think you might be better off rehabbing the shed and making it appear more attractive than what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is interest in improving the shed also, so I think that'll be part of what we'll do.
Okay. Yeah, with regard to the wetland buffer, I think I have this brochure that's put out by the Westchester County Soil and Water Conservation District, a guide to aquatic buffers. And in here it talks about wetland buffers. And it notes in here, wetland buffers are measured, let me get to the part where. Wetland buffers protect and enhance important wetland functions, including erosion control, pollutant removal, diversity of wildlife habitat, flood water storage, groundwater recharge, and increased aesthetic value. Wetland buffers also provide a separation that reduces human access to sensitive habitat and discourages dumping. Similar to stream buffers, wetland buffers can vary in size based on factors such as adjacent land use and wetland size, quality, and function. I think also what's in here too, there are some studies that have been done with regard to buffers and to the maximum and the most efficient size and widths of buffers for different types of ecological sensitivity. And for water quality, buffers that are in the range of 50 feet and up to 175 feet are the most efficient for water quality protection. I think that's more what this buffer is about than any of the other stream bank stabilization or stream shading. There is some stream shading, but that's being done by the trees that are actually in the wetlands. So I just find that I don't think that play area is a good use in a wetland buffer. I don't think particularly any use is a good use in the wetland buffer, because it's saying in here that the buffer does play an important role in maintaining the quality of that wetland. And again, there's just so much additional space on that site that is not within a wetland buffer or in the wetland area. I don't see why that swing set shouldn't be moved to a location that's outside the buffer area.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
Sorry.
Hold on, I think you have to come up, please.
Hi, I'm Alana Lewis, and we purchased the home. As a parent, it's really important to be able to feel like your kids are playing safely. And I can see my kids in the kitchen. And I'm on 2 public venues. I'm on Broadway, and I'm on the Aqueduct. So you say there's a lot of land, but there's really not that much land, because from here, if I move my playground down here, I don't have a fence. And I've been told that, which I can bring in 3 documentations showing I have 3 special ed kids. But I understand that you prefer if I put a fence back off my property line. I want to keep my kids safe. So for me, safe is close to my house. Safe is if someone comes off the Aqueduct drunk, and there's beer bottles, and people are always throwing trash onto the property, both over Broadway and this way. If my kids are playing and some stranger comes off, not right in their mind, they can get to my house quickly. And they can come right in the entrance. There's a safety issue here. I can't see my kids if the playground is over here from my kitchen.
Could you see your kids if you moved it a little bit north and then moved it east, closer to the house?
No, because the kitchen windows are here.
So how is that a better view?
Well, they can't. Then they don't have a yard to run in.
What?
The point of moving was to have more space to run.
Yeah, but here's the thing that you bought
So
a piece of...
put the playground right in the middle of the yard.
No, here's what you did, is you bought a house that has certain limitations to it, okay? And those
But the
limitations...
playground already existed.
Could you let him speak, please?
Okay, so you have certain limitations on your property, and these have to be addressed because now you're trying to touch your property. So the point here is that it's not just you, and it's not just your kids, it's the next person that comes and says, wait a second, you said yes to them, why can't I do this? You set a precedence for this thing. And these laws were set up to do what was described there. So
But this
it
is
was,
also a residential area. It's not a public park. It's not a wild
I'm sorry,
national
but
park.
you have a site there that's several acres. You have
It's
a
not
lawn-
several acres.
Excuse me. You have
It's
a
not
lawn
several
area that
acres.
goes- I walked it, right? I was out there over the weekend. I walked down the aqueduct. You have a lawn that goes almost from the aqueduct up to your house. There's not a single tree on that backyard. You have three, I can see right from here, you have 3 trees between the play set and your house. Yet you say that that's a better view than if you move
It
more
is.
towards the north end.
It
I'm
is,
sorry.
they're like weeping trees.
Well, again, I'm sorry that you bought a house that had this violation, that the people...
But you didn't take care of it then. Why is
Because
it?
they didn't come in and request it, they did.
You've seen it. Everyone walking by has seen it for years.
Anybody else have any comments?
For years, you've
I have
seen
a comment
it.
on the placement of the swing set close to the buffer, in the buffer, because children, and I've had a few myself, have a tendency to run straight in the same place all the time. What you're going to be doing is creating a path in the wetlands buffer to get to the swing
The
set.
path to the swing
You
set
need
is
to speak
above
into
the
the
buffer,
microphone
not
for the
below the
transcript.
buffer.
The path to the swing set is above the buffer, not
No,
below the
I
buffer.
understand that. It's not in the buffer, but it's above the buffer. But by having traffic, the children, in and out of that swing set will create some dead grass, which will, rain creates mud. And
I think what Alana's saying is that the connection between the yard and the swing set is not really going through the buffer, and it probably wouldn't have any additional impact on the...
So is it just that little piece that's sticking over the line?
It is, and this is the other thing that I would argue, and this is one of the reasons why, when we had started, we thought that potentially relocating this would actually cause more disruption than just leaving it in place. This looks, because of the way this is shown graphically, and you guys were out to the site, it looks like maybe this is wetland plants, or that this has wetland material in this area. It doesn't. The lawn extends all the way through this area into this buffer, and the limit of the wetland is really where the delineation is, and the lawn moves right to the edge of that. So our position was, and what we indicated in here, is that the lawn-based activity is sort of the same condition, and having this play area there doesn't really make it worse. If you did take the play area out, because you'd have to at least take the curbing up and pull the wood chips up, stuff there, that there would lead to some disturbance that could lead to silt and other stuff moving into the wetlands. And we thought that the impact of the play area here was really not significant relative to moving it 15 feet that way outside of wetlands. But the impact of potentially pulling up the wood chips might have an impact. And, that was really our position.
If you remember that was, you did bring up that position, and I think that most of the people here on the board disagreed with that.
Right, but we did, if you did go through the actual point-by-point potential impacts that are in the code, we did try to address each one of them point by point. And it's hard to indicate which impact would be so great from leaving it in place. And we could go through that, but we did provide a memorandum.
I think we went through this already, and I think that...
No, we didn't do that in the first meeting.
Not point to point, but I think the theory that you were proposing was not necessarily approved here, that it was not, that in fact maybe it is better for the wetland to disturb it and then for it to be reinvigorated thereafter.
Right,
So-
And I think if you do it properly, you won't impact the wetland negatively. It may just be short-term while you're removing the stuff, but if you put the silt fences up, if you have a careful contractor who does it, you won't have a problem. And you will restore the lawn area, which is acting as a buffer to what it should be. Yeah, and I think also, as Sheila was saying too, I think by having the play area next to the wetlands, you're encouraging the kids and others to come down and go into the wetlands. And again, I think one of the things I read in here was the idea of having that buffer is to keep people away from sensitive wetlands. And so I think by having the play set in the buffer, you're attracting people to the wetland area.
Right.
And again, as George said, that's what this code was all about. It was designed to protect the wetlands, and that's why the buffer is there.
And this wouldn't have come up at all, ma'am, if it wasn't that you're here to propose new construction. It isn't that there are code cops that go around looking at these things. It's just what happens that you're planning to touch your property, and because of that, all these things are coming out. And for me, if there was a place where you couldn't, if there was no plausible place for this to go, I wouldn't argue with it. But I do agree that it can be manipulated to work, and therefore, we don't have this as a precedent for someone else to come through.
Will you
Because
let me
the
put in a
arguments-
fence?
John.
Can I put in a fence right at the border?
Like, if I, will you let me put a fence in? Would you approve a fence along the border then of the property so I could sort of block the view of my children?
Well, let me understand this. Where as I said, I've been out there, where that swing set is set right now, I can walk off the aqueduct and be close and get to that set in a matter of seconds. If you moved it closer to the house, it would be a longer distance for somebody coming off the aqueduct to try and get to that swing set.
I
So
don't see it that way because I see the kids
being
coming in
very
and out of this entrance.
I think a lot, they're thinking that the swing set would move closer to the house this way.
Right, there's no
And I think you're thinking that-
functioning doors that are.
We need to have one person at a time talk, and you need to speak into the microphone.
I think the best thing to do is this, is that you hear that there are obviously some concerns on this board about this. And perhaps you can go back and figure out a better solution for it. And if not, then to come to try to argue in more comprehensive way of why it needs to stay. But currently, the way you've described it, it isn't very, it's not working.
Well, so the next step would be to go into detail on each of, if you choose to keep it in place, we would come back with Evans Associates or Beth Evans, and they would provide potentially an approach to leaving it in place that would mitigate the encroachment. I mean, would you guys be open? This is a question. Like, if the only answer is to relocate it, that's different than coming in and saying, okay, it is in the buffer. When other stuff has to be in buffer, sometimes there are mitigations that make up for the encroachment in that buffer, where you have you add more storage somewhere else, or you provide some other improvements that make the wetlands healthier and offset the potential damage of that. And we could have Evans Associate sort of quantify the potential damage associated with leaving this in place versus taking it out and providing mitigation. Is that?
I think there is ample room in that site to look at other locations for it that are totally outside of the buffer. And then unless you can show us how you can't do it any other place but where it's at, then you have a problem with it.
I'm asking if you'll allow me to put a fence in.
The fence is sort of a different issue that we'll have to.
For me as a mom, it's not.
One person has to talk. We don't stop this. One person has to talk at a
Well, I
time.
would suggest this, at least for me, if what you're proposing is to figure out a way to, keep it and add more wetlands somewhere else, and the net result of that is the same as if moving this, I'll listen.
Right, well, that's the reason I brought that question. If they really want to keep it in place, if that's something they want to pursue, the alternative would be to relocate it.
Right.
Those are our two options at this point, but I just want to check that if you were interested in us pursuing that.
I think George makes a good point. If mitigation can be the creation of wetlands someplace else.
Right.
So if you can do that, then we'll consider that also.
Right, our understanding is the wetlands is,
But I think if you start getting into that, then you're going to have to get.
We did so bad.
What?
You're going to have to get your consultant to show what they're going to do, and you're going to have to. Then we're going to have to hire a consultant to make sure that is appropriate.
So it might be less expensive just to.
No, we understand that, yes. But I just wanted to make sure if there are more than one path forward that Alana knows what they are. If there's a single path forward, you should.
Now, I just want to make clear that it has to be a report from Beth Evans, not your summary
that's
of
what I
your
mean.
conversations with Beth Evans.
Right, this is, so what we.
This one we should talk, and I'm not criticizing you about your discussions with Beth Evans. We actually need a report from Beth Evans.
Right, so that would be, so just to be clear, if the client chooses to keep that in place, what we would produce would be a mitigation plan from a environmental consultant. The alternative would be to move forward with relocating that. Is this working?
It's working, we're talking about moving the swing set 15 feet north and a few feet east.
That's correct.
Okay, and then it's fine.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on.
And so then just to follow up on that, so if we agreed tonight to move it north and east that way, would that be the only thing holding, should we have an approval contingent on that relocation
Yes.
at this point?
Oh.
You okay?
Yeah.
So,
If you want to think about
yeah,
it,
that's what
and then
I was
we'll
going to ask. Why
discuss
don't
it
we
with your
let you
client,
go
we'll come
and then
back.
we'll
Right.
come back.
All right, so let's move on to the next item then. Next item is 2016-39 Linda Boff, 6 Palliser Road. Before you start speaking, please take the microphone and identify yourself. Either one.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Troy Wojciechowski. I'm engineer for the applicants, Linda and Regis Boff. Steve Griggs is here tonight as well. He's a site designer from Steve Griggs Design Group. The project is at 6 Palliser Road. We were before you last month, and briefly just to remind you of the project, it's a proposed in-ground pool and adjacent patio. What I did here, let me just get my notes here. Organized. Basically, what we did with our resubmission was to try to address the comments from the village engineer, but as well as the board members. And let's kind of touch on the bigger issues that we addressed. Our original plan showed 5 trees to be removed as part of the project. We since removed that, or excuse me, reduced that to 1. It's a birch tree, and it's in the vicinity of the pool area, and it's currently leaning. And in fact, it was cabled, and I guess the cable broke, and we submitted a letter from an arborist to the board with our last submission. So we see that as a nice improvement to the project. The other probably larger issue was the coverage. As you recall, we would require a coverage variance. So what I did with this layout here on the board, this was our original submission, and this is our current submission. So what you can see in the orange are the reductions in our current project. We removed the walkway and the upper patio. We reduced the size of the patio adjacent to the pool. We basically brought we're going to not increase the size of the existing patio along the house, which in turn allows us to get more steps up to have a more direct approach and reduce the coverage related to the stairs. Because the previous layout, we had to come up to a landing and come up in this direction here. Other things that we did, which we since found out from Doug's letter, we were proposing to convert this bluestone existing patio as well as the walkway here to pervious pavers to help reduce the impacts of the coverage that we were proposing here. Apparently that is supposed to be included in the coverage definition by the village, so we'll have to add that back in. But we see that as a mitigating factor with the coverage that we're proposing here. Other benefits related to that is related to the stormwater. I'll switch over to our overall plan. By reducing our coverage and converting the existing patio and walkway, as you can see shaded here, to pervious pavers, it allows us to get away with a much smaller infiltration system. Last month at the meeting. As you may recall, we had the system over in this corner here, and there was some conversation and concern about the construction entrance kind of being directed right to that area. So now we've actually located it up by the patio and the pool, and it's much smaller as well. Doug did mention we still have to do soil testing, but we have done test pits up in this area related to the pool, and we have sufficient soils up there, and they look to be good permeable soils. One thing we did look into, I think Mr. Chairman, you raised this, to potentially look at moving the pool adjacent to the existing patio so that patio could kind of do double duty. We really felt that it compromised really the whole feel of the project and would result in cuts of up to 14, 15 feet for the pool. Because as you know, right now there's a 4 foot or so retaining wall up against the existing patio, and then it slopes up. So by shifting this adjacent to that patio, really would have some serious cuts, upwards of 14 or 15 feet. So as far as the impacts of either spreading that material out or trucking it off and just really the feel of the project, we really didn't think that was a feasible alternative. What else do we have? Yes. I think most of Doug's comments we were okay with. There were kind of technical details that we'll take care of. I know the village's landscape architect also issued some comments. Really two, I think. One, I think she missed the planting schedule here as far as the proposed trees that we're showing along the property boundaries are all evergreens. 16 trees in total, 7 Douglas fir, and 9 green giant arborvitae. She also had concern about us squeezing our construction entrance by this corner of the house here. We understand that we're going to end up removing this stone curb temporarily to make that 17 foot wide, so we don't see that as an issue. I think that's about it. If the board has any comments.
It's all rock bed in the back, right? You're not bringing heavy jackhammers in there?
No, this is actually, it's all basically run at bank, right?
Yeah, we dug a bunch of test pits in, we didn't hit anything.
You need to speak to the microphone.
Hey,
Introduce yourself.
Hi, Ed. Steve Griggs. We dug a bunch of test pits in the back and we didn't hit any rocks. Surprisingly, there was no rocks, yeah.
Any other comments, Sheila?
Okay.
George, other comments? Let me see if I understand this. When you come out onto that patio off the back of the house, then that pool is at a higher elevation than the existing patio porch coming off?
That's right.
And what's the difference in elevation? The proposed elevation of the patio for the pool and the existing elevation, the elevation on the existing patio. What's the difference?
Sure, the patio is about 103, and the top rail of the pool is 110, so it's about 7 feet.
7 feet.
Higher. So that's, looking at this is actually our plan here. So we can fit the number of steps to get up to that, so it's on a nice terrace.
So what if you brought, well, again, because according to Doug's memo, it appears that the coverage is exceeded by 54%. Is that still?
Yeah, that was including the permeable pavers.
Okay. So what if you were to reduce the size of that patio and then turn the stairs horizontal to the existing patio, so that you come up, again, it's horizontal to the existing patio, rather than having it extend out so the pool is farther away from the house, moving the pool closer to the house and then turning the stairways parallel to the existing patio.
And
Instead of sticking out, it'd be sideways down? Right?
Yeah, so clockwise? Well, if you put them perpendicular to the way they're being proposed now.
Running more this way.
Correct. And then you move the patio in and maybe reduce some of the patio size too, since now you'll be closer in. Again, it just seems that 54% is a very high coverage factor over the.
Unfortunately, I think this property was really hurt by the change in the zoning in 2008. because part of our submittal, as requested by Doug, was to kind of compare this property to the neighborhood. So we submitted a package, and I brought a figure here, which is kind of a blow-up of one of them. Because basically, from our submittal, pre-2008, this property complied with the zoning as far as coverage goes. In 2008, when the coverage changed from I think 4,800 square feet to a percentage, 12%, all of a sudden it made this lot non-conforming. Existing is 14%. So
Existing, you're 14% over?
14% coverage compared to 12 maximum allowed. So we're starting, you know, kind of behind the starting line, just with the change in the zoning. Correct, yeah, the maximum allowed is.
He's talking about
No.
total site coverage.
Yeah, our total is going to be 18% compared to the 12, so we're increasing from the existing 14% to 18%, which sounds a whole lot better than 54% variance, to be honest.
Not if you're good
And
at
as you-
math, because.
You know, because as you can see from this figure, the applicant's lot is the yellow one there, and you can see. Correct. And this was part of your packets too. You can see the comparison of the lot coverages, which I was able to obtain actually from the aerials on Westchester County's GIS site. So this is not the aerials, but in your packet you can see how I was able to get a really good feel for the coverage on the adjacent lots. This basically just shows the houses. So you can see their neighbors behind them have coverages of 22%, 23%, 5 and 6, 23%, 24%, and their next door neighbors 15 and 14%. So it's really, you know, this is going to be obviously part of our arguments with the ZBA as far as our coverage variances is, does it have a negative impact to the neighborhood? And as you can see from this documentation, it fits right in with the neighborhood. In fact, there's neighbors that have much greater lot coverage.
Well, from that rendering you have there, the lot size, the lot size you have right in your hand,
Okay.
it appears that your lot, your client's lot, and the lot next to it are considerably larger than any of the lots surrounding.
Correct.
And yet you're still going to be 54% over coverage. I mean, I think, let's go back. I mean, the purpose of the Board of Trustees changing the zoning requirements was to reduce the amount of impervious surface that could be permitted in the village. And so if we continue, and if the board the ZBA continues to give variances out, it sort of defeats the purpose of what the whole Board of Trustees and what the zoning ordinance is all about. So I still think you're going to have to, for my purpose, I don't know about the other board members, I would like to see still a reduction in the coverage figure, further reduction.
I think unfortunately, the code has changed with what you want. You can't do what you want to do. And the code has changed, so you have to now build according to the parameters of the current code.
Or pursue
What
a
was
variance
happening,
with the ZBA.
what happened previously is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have to deal with what you've got.
You are open to pursue that variance, I can tell you this, I would write a memo to the zoning board expressing this board's concerns about the coverage that's being proposed. So if you want to take your chances and do that, you're free to do that.
Does the board, I mean, Steve and I will review with the applicant, you know, different alternatives as far as trying to reduce this, but if we, does the board have a target that you would feel comfortable with? I mean, I don't, right now the existing, we're going to need a variance because right now it's an existing non-conforming lot. So unless we chop off the south side of the house to build a pool and a patio.
Does number 2 have a pool?
What's number 2?
This is number 2, the one to the right of the...
Yeah, just down.
See, this is the packet that I provided that I did my takeoff, so
Right.
if you look in here, this actually has the aerial.
I don't think.
I don't think they have a pool.
Yeah, it was done very well, to be honest.
Thanks.
No, and the one to the
Yeah,
left
that's,
is no.
I don't think they have a pool.
Right.
the one across the street doesn't.
So I would tell you it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you have a sort of a convincing argument about understanding what the lot coverage is for what the neighbors are, even though there is another convincing argument saying, well, that was then and this is now, and the reason why it all changed is so that what was done then is not done now. So it sort of defeats the purpose of saying, oh, we're just going to follow what was there. Is to go with your clients and say, okay, they're still not so happy with how big this is, and try to figure out a way of reducing this even more significantly. Because what you basically did here is you eliminated things, like the hot tub thing and all that kind of stuff. And you remember when you were here, we were like, wow, that thing is just,
Nice.
Well,
Nice
it was,
and large.
it was ambitious. It was very ambitious. So perhaps there's a way that you can now figure out a way that, because now you understand that there's still some nervousness about the size of this thing in relationship to the new code and everything else that can happen. Is there ways that you can reduce this?
The size of the pool?
No, not the pool. I think it's not the pool. I think if you listen to to Patty, basically was trying to help you out in terms of perhaps it's an orientation, or perhaps it's this, that you kind of merge certain parts of it. I don't know. It's just the best thing to do is to try it, and if you find out that, hey, it doesn't work, and you can convince this board that it doesn't work, perhaps that's to your end.
I thought by using the permeable pavers, I thought that would have helped a lot, but apparently it doesn't. It also counts as coverage. Don't know why, but it shouldn't, because the reason for the coverage is for what? Just lot coverage or for drainage?
No, it's for making it so it doesn't look like the whole place is somehow paved.
Okay.
So that's part of it.
The problem with they're over the coverage is because a lot of those existing old rubble stone walls count up for about 500 square feet of coverage. These old walls that have been there for I don't know how long, but there's no mortar on them. They're basically moss growing out of them and ferns growing out of them. So, but it still counts as coverage. So
perhaps there's a way you can talk to Mr. Marin and figure out other ways to eliminate some of the issues that exist. But in whole, you heard it over here that it's too big. So maybe there's a way to.
What if I got rid of the pool patio? I mean, I don't know. I could sit on
Well, there might be several alternatives that you could look at.
I'm trying to get like a target. Like, what's the target? Like, if you give me a target, I don't want to give me a target. 10% is 300 square feet over the lot coverage, right? That's a 10 by 3. That's nothing. So if you give me a target that you're comfortable with, then we can rearrange it. But otherwise, we'll just keep spinning wheels. Is there something that you're comfortable with?
I don't think we can give you that kind of a number.
Give me a range. High, low, like one of these.
Actually, how about a lot more?
I think you got
A lot more is good.
I think you have to take a look at it and look at several different alternatives, maybe ways that you can reduce the coverage. It might, and then come back to us and say, well, look, we looked at it. Here's what we can get to in various alternatives, and let us know which ones you think are the best.
But originally you said the pool, if you can make the pool the same patio, the same level as the back patio, that can't happen because you'll have a 20-foot wall in back of the property. That's just going to increase the issues, correct? So we still need a small wall with the steps going up to the pool.
Right, so I was trying to give you some suggestions, maybe make the steps perpendicular to the existing patio, and be able then to move the pool and the patio closer, maybe reduce the size of that new patio by doing that.
Okay.
It's something to look at.
Okay, something to look at.
You bring up a good point. I mean, that's the kind of points you have to bring up, is that, no one wants 20-foot high walls because it's less coverage. Just no one wants that. So that, everyone's reasonable. So I think if you kind of help educate this and show how you've reduced it, and if you reduce it too much, here's the implications of doing that. I think that's look, they're all nodding, so I think that's
I think just the nature of the project itself, I mean, you can see it's a natural style kind of pool, it's stone patio, so it's nice hardscape, it's nice coverage, it's not a basketball court, it's not a concrete sidewalk, so, that has something, that holds some weight too, at least in my mind. We're not putting, a brand new basketball court in the backyard, which is obviously an eyesore, and everything. We're taking care of the stormwater concerns with additional coverage, and the hardscape is all kind of natural
looking.
Well,
at
I also
hardscape.
appreciate you don't want to have like this moving target and keep on coming back, month after. I don't want to see you month and month.
You just want to see my bill.
No, but I think it makes sense to understand that the best way to get this, and perhaps you can do it the next time, is to show what some alternatives are, what the implications are, okay, both in terms of the amount of coverage and what impacts they were having, so that it becomes one of those, okay, well, this obviously is not a good idea. This is a better idea, but it impacts coverage and stuff like that, so that everyone here can kind of evaluate and then figure out what's the best thing to go through. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm trying to be as precise.
I don't think, giving you the target is the right approach. I
It's
think
not
it's
an
for-
Olympic-sized
You need to
pool.
use the microphone.
It's not an Olympic-sized pool, it's a 700-square-foot pool, so when you count coverage as a swimming pool, which I don't understand how that, it's water, right? So I don't understand the reason, you end up having to put more water in the pool than having it overflow. So that's a whole nother code issue, why that counts as coverage. So that's 700 square feet. And all I'm really doing is adding a 400-square-foot patio, that's really it. I mean, I also proposed taking up the existing bluestone patio, putting permeable pavers, but that got shot down. If I took the bluestone patio up and I put grass there, does that help? I mean, just something. They want to swim. I'm trying
I
to,
think come back to us with the justification, and we looked at these other alternatives, this is what we get, and we think this one still remains the best, or some other one remains the best.
Grass works.
Grass works, I mean, you could make it.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to just
patio
come back
smaller.
with, 5 different variations of the pool being spun around. We'll just be, we'll be spinning wheels, so,
No, I don't want you to do
Yeah, I
that,
don't want
okay? I don't want to see you again, no offense, but.
Come on.
Yeah, I think some great direction was given.
I hear you, I got it, but I'm just trying to avoid,
I understand.
the circle that goes around.
I think you made a great presentation.
And we're not a circular board here.
So-
We try to get things moving.
I
but
hear
you
you.
have to give us.
And we want them to
give us
swim.
Some different options.
You can come swimming.
No, I just wanted to swim, okay, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
See you next month. We're here. Thank you.
John, do you want to?
Forgot.
So I spoke with the client, they're willing to move the swing set out of the wetlands buffer. What I proposed that we would do was rotate it, if you noticed it was east-west, we could rotate it north and slide it out of the wetland buffer, and I think that would solve the problem. You guys are okay with that?
That's fine.
That's
fine.
Out
Out of the buffer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have the?
You have a resolution?
Have a resolution? Magically,
She's amazing.
John, you look a little shorter than you were supposed
People have actually, like in the last week, people have actually come in and saying like, you don't look that good, you look tired. Like more than one. What do you do with that? I keep saying that.
In December 2016, Cameron and Alana Lewis applied for site plan approval to construct 2 additions to their house at 41D North Broadway. The application was revised to also seek legalization of several undocumented structures on the property, including a shed and a playground. The property is located in the View Preservation District. The playground is located within the wetland buffer and therefore would require a wetland permit from the planning board. The addition to the house would require a front yard variance, and the shed would require a variance from the side yard requirement. On January 24th, 2017, the zoning board of appeals, by a vote of 3-2, granted the front yard variance for the addition, and granted the side yard variance for the shed on the condition that the shed be completely screened by bushes or shrubs on the east, south, and west sides, which condition the applicant's representative agreed to. Con Engineering reviewed the plans, and in a memorandum dated December 29th listed a number of issues with the site plan, many of which were addressed in a subsequent submission which Con Engineering also reviewed. Lucille Munns, the village's landscape consultant, in her staff report dated January 30th, made 2 recommendations about planting. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on January 4th and February 1st. The proposed construction would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties or the adjacent right-of-way. The actions are type 2 action under secret. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Lewis Residence, and that the numbers prepared by Ferguson Malone Architecture, and the proposed stormwater mitigation plan prepared by Keith Copeland and Gregory Engineers. Subject to 1, compliance with the conditions stated in the ZBA decision dated January 27, 2017. 2, removal of the playground from the wetland buffer. 3, compliance with the recommendations in the MUN's January 30th, 2017 staff report. And 4, satisfaction of the items listed by Han Engineering in its memorandum of February 1st.
And so that you'll resubmit a site plan showing the swing set removed from the buffer, and you present that to Ed and to Doug for your concurrence. Okay. Can I have a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you're approved.
Thank you.
Tell us what you really think.
It's the best feeling. It's like breaking glass.
Next item is 2016-35, Steve and Suzanne Solomani, 4 Bracebridge Lane.
Wait, is it getting signed?
Signed. They're signed. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, the board, members of the board. My name is Matthew Dudley from Wilson Elser. I'm filling in for Lino Shredda tonight on behalf of the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Solomani, for a site plan application for the property at 4 Bracebridge Lane. We have Mr. Greg Sharp with us tonight. He's the architect for the applicant to discuss the revisions to the site plan since our last meeting.
Okay. Hi. Hi.
Hi, Greg Sharp. I guess we'll start with the revisions to the site plan, and then we can go into some of that. So based on our last meeting here, it was advised that we change the driveway to a more circular shape, so I think we've done that. And we have addressed some of the drainage issues, as well as some of the tree protection and landscaping issues. And so I feel that we have adequately modified the site plan according to the town and the town engineer and the suggestions that were given as far as that goes. Based on the letter that we received today, there was still one, I guess, large issue which had to do with the building height or how that's calculated. So we have a suggestion for that, or a possible solution to be discussed. So I think it's time for some new boards. Landscaping plan. So this was the proposal that we discussed at the last meeting, which was basically to provide 3 steps up that were still underneath the other section of the building that are, so they're still considered lot coverage. And as a proposal saying that this needs to be moved to the, so the steps could be inside, have a solution. So basically, all that we wanted to do, okay. All that we were talking about doing was basically moving the enclosure around the steps.
So the stairs will be inside?
Yes, that's correct.
And the grade outside won't change?
That's correct. There's no change to the grading. It's just, instead of the doors being there, the doors are there. And it's in the basement, so it doesn't affect lot coverage, doesn't affect FAR.
Hold the microphone a little bit farther.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. And if you'd like to see it, I can take it off here, so it's not so
No, I mean,
close.
I think this is an issue that the building inspector and engineer have to be, more. So if you guys.
As we discussed last month, as long as the stairs are inside, you're not changing the grade of the periphery, then you're not, or you have to lower the house 3 feet. So what he's done is he's left the grade alone. He hasn't lowered the house 3 feet to the basement floor. He's just brought steps inside the house to the grade outside the house.
That's
Our
correct.
concern was just to make sure. It is a 10-foot ceiling, so there's room for a few steps, and the header can be moved. That's the only control issue you're gonna have.
Yep. So with the latest revision, I think we've satisfied those concerns. Another thing you brought up is that you just wanted to see a better rendering of the house, something that would give you a better idea of what's going on. I've also changed the stucco color to not be a bright color, but more of a gray color, and as well as the wood being more natural wood and the weathered zinc, so using earth tones on the house to basically have it blend in, as was another suggestion of the board. Just some inspiration of some other projects, so not just some modern barns or some other designs that use similar materials as well as sort of similar modern barn aesthetics.
Did you see our landscape architect's comments?
I have not.
Okay. I think she just has a few comments, recommendations considered. I think she still thinks that there's going to be an impact to that 18-inch tree in the front yard by the location of the garage, and her recommendation is that you have an arborist take a look at that tree and give a report on that tree and
Sure.
on the impact of it. So
Okay.
that would be helpful. And I think she's also ready to change the species for larger shrubs to screen the circular drive. I think that was going to be one of my comments too. I think as you're driving north on Broadway, so I think it would be the southeast corner of your property, which would be on the south side of the proposed driveway. I think if you can do some more screening there, because that's the part that is still most visible. If you have that row of, what are they, arborvitaes, I guess, along Broadway.
Yes.
Sort of screens the front yard coming from the north side, but, so you're coming north and driving south, but when you're driving north on Broadway, there you go. So what you can do in that lower left-hand corner.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Well, we are.
Kinds of screening you can put in there, some shrubbery or
Sure.
some proposed higher shrubs. That would,
No problem.
okay.
You know, we will obviously follow any landscaping recommendations. That's certainly not our main.
Got a copy right there. I think that there isn't anything extreme in there. I think it would all be helpful, I think, towards just enhancing the appearance of
Sure.
the yard.
Sure. We do plan on doing a significant landscaping and screening program, and have also discussed with the Milanos doing some joint screening as well.
Okay.
So,
And I think, I do like the idea of toning down the stucco color, and even the more natural wood. I think that will be a bit more to blend it into the landscape.
okay, great, thank you.
Any other comments from any board members? George? Sheila?
I like the toning down also.
Does it look like the school roof?
It's a gable. It's a gable.
The material that you use?
It's going to be a weathered zinc,
Okay.
but it's like, you know, it's a gray, natural-looking, dull, not shiny, but standing seam.
Right, but it's not asphalt. I mean, it's.
No, it's metal.
Right, yeah.
It's metal.
So I think if you just come back with addressing those comments, I think we'll be in good shape then to wrap this up for the next board meeting.
Okay. There's no way to
I don't
move to the ARB.
You need to use the microphone.
There,
The comments being the landscaping.
Yes, I think in the comments on
Drainage
Doug
issues.
Hines,
There's a lot of comments.
there's a bunch of comments
Okay.
still to be addressed. So I think if you address those before the submission date for the next meeting, I think then maybe we'll be in good position then to take some action on it at the next board meeting. So if you address all those comments.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you need this too? Mark?
Please.
Or-
Thank you.
Okay, I think that'll be it. All right, thank you. The next item is 2016-31, Papapanu and Lala, 20 Lewis Road, and I'm recused on this matter.
Ready to go, Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design, here for the Papapanos application. They would like to put a pool in their rear yard. We got Han Engineering's comments. I think we've knocked a lot of things off. There's still some issues that we need to address that were on the one that we received. The first thing I want to kind of go into is I think there's some confusion potentially about the fence. When we first started, we talked about changing the existing deer fence to be the pool fence, and we recognized that was not going to work. So we've proposed adding a fence inside the deer fence so that we've got a pool fence that's screened by the stuff that's outside of it. There's concern about where, there've been comments from neighbors that they would like to have us set that in 4 feet or something like that. If you look at the drawing, the deer fence for much of the property actually does already set in off the property line. So we're on the inside of that, so we're not really that close to the property line. We're also picking up from an existing fence that's metal, coming around. Once we hit this corner, which is about maybe 2/3 of the way down on the east side, we actually don't need to then install a fence along the Goldsmith property, because the Goldsmith fence for their pool is actually about 1.5 to 2 feet on the Papapanos property. So we'll just bring our fence to that fence, match it, so that it looks right, and then that comes down to this point. At that point, we'll pick it up again and come down along, but again, on the inside.
That may be a problem,
What will?
the fence.
Why?
If that's your fence,
It's a fence on our property.
it's a pool fence, it's a required fence.
Right, it's their pool fence.
You can't share a pool fence. They'll either have to relocate their pool fence onto their property, and then you put your own fence in.
Why can't you share a pool fence? Just so I know.
Because it's a requirement of the New York State Building Code that each pool have a fence. If one person can take down a fence, I understand the legal issues of the fence being on the wrong property, but you cannot share a fence because who's in maintenance of that fence? If the neighbor who doesn't have a fence on the property takes it down or relocates it, then it leaves a pool vulnerable to children drowning.
And you put emphasis on that, which I really needed to do.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yes, I agree.
A child could drown.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I
You
mean.
need to resolve that.
Which we will. I mean, I was unaware of that until this moment, but.
Well, people could drown, kids could drown?
No, that the pool fence that's currently on this property, can't count as the pool fence. So obviously, we'll need to work something out with our neighbors.
If you can take the pool fence, but then the neighbors have to finish it. That needs to be addressed.
And I'm not trying to cause a
No, I'm
problem for
just
anybody, so.
telling you, we have to be very careful about that.
Right, and it makes sense, and we will do so. I mean, it'll be us working out with the neighbor. The issue is, I don't think there's a problem with the fence that we can't solve in a logical way for this property. Second thing that we did at the last meeting, and I may have not understood what you were asking for, we showed an access coming in before off of the road that is adjacent, or the driveway that's adjacent, coming in from the neighbors. We do not yet have an agreement with the neighbors. There's conversation going on. It hasn't gotten to a point that I feel is solid enough that I would say I want to bet that we're having that. So what we've done.
Perhaps you didn't read the email that we got.
Oh, no, I've got it.
I think it was a little bit different than
what you're stating.
than what you're stating. Just so.
Well, I'm also going by that last paragraph too, because the last paragraph, and I think Kate is here, so she can speak for herself. I'm not going to try and do it. I don't think I think that it's a very carefully constructed letter, properly written, that protects her clients. I think the last paragraph makes it clear that they're not objecting to this. So we don't have an agreement with them to come in yet, which I understand, and the reason I'm mentioning that is it's the reason that we've shown the ability to get in on this property.
Well, we don't want an either-or situation. We want you to tell us which one you're going
Right.
to use.
And I think that's where we will be before you're approving anything, I understand. But what we've done at this point is noting that this is less impact. I would think it's preferable. If we can work that out, that's good. If we can't, we'd be coming in this way. So we'll have to have that before you're in a position of acting. But I wanted to show you those two, because if I showed this and you said, we don't like that, I'd have to work up another alternative for that. So that's why I've shown the two.
Okay.
At this point, we understand once we get to a point where you're ready to act on it, which I do not assume is tonight, this will be something that you would have as a specific on the drawing. That's what we'd be asking for. There was an issue about alternative pool locations. I didn't realize that that was still something that we were concerned about, because there's such a logic to how we have positioned where the pool goes. We did look at a bunch of different ideas. I actually have something. It's just hard to see that tonight. If you guys want to take a look at something that's a little bit closer.
Were these in the submissions?
This was not in a submission.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. If you don't want to look at them, that's fine, but.
We can't look at that tonight.
Okay. So, well, I'm pointing out is something very specific, that the reason the pool is located where it is it's in the clearing and in the level portion of the site, which does not necessitate the removal of any significant trees. We're outside the drip line of the major trees that are located on the property. Other locations of the pool, assuming the pool is not in the front yard, which would be a whole different problem, other locations encroached upon other trees, the roots, within the drip line, or else required significant amounts of cut on the site, because we would be orienting the pool in a different location, in a different orientation. So we'd be going downslope with it, so we'd be moving a lot more dirt. So the idea of where we put it is to minimize that, which I think is part of the intent here. Okay, yeah, what we've done, we're east of the trees and shrubs, we're west of the trees and shrubs, so we're not taking those out. We're out of the shadow from the trees to the south, and we're out of the canopy from the trees to the north. So we've positioned it, I think, in what makes the most sense. We did have a site walk with Bob from Bartlett Trees. He is an arborist, so he made a number of recommendations, which we've included on the submission that you have before you, in terms of how we actually changed our access drive so that it is actually mulch covered with a mat instead of gravel, so that it actually softens the impact on the roots that are close to the surface. What else we have? We do want to have a site walk with the landscape architect that works for the neighbors. We are trying to do that. She was away in the beginning of the month, then I wasn't available last week. So we'll try and do that within the next week or two. And that takes us to the last thing that I think we need to deal with tonight, which is the issue of coverage. And I think the numbers have been corrected the way that we've been asked on the drawings, so that we have that shown. We were thinking in terms that a bluestone terrace that's on a stone base that captures more water and holds it on site is a good thing. But I guess that's one of the concerns of what can we cut. So if we were going to cut something, I think we would cut the bluestone terrace. That reduces the site coverage by 180 square feet, which reduces it to 28.9% over. I understand how it's been interpreted, but I don't agree with it, which is that we're counting the gravel on grade that's under this pine tree, where grass won't grow, as coverage. And I'm not sure why gravel on grade should count as coverage. And Mr. Ed will inform me why I...
Have you read our definition of building?
Yes, whenever
What does it say?
anything's on the ground.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Any combination of building material is a building. So gravel, singular, is, but if you have a combination, you have a truckload of gravel, it's coverage. It's a building.
I
Any
understand.
combination of building material is a building.
So if we just raked the gravel out and took it away, use it somewhere else, that site coverage...
Use it in your cement. You can't place it somewhere else on the property. If you place a gravel path is coverage.
I understand. It doesn't make sense to me, but I understand that that's what...
Perhaps this is something you can do at a later date when, with Ed, to help you define what coverage is. And if you have an argument with it about that...
Well, Ed and I
great.
have talked about this many times. I don't, and I'm not arguing...
It's covered.
You should actually, the last guy had the same issue. Just because it's drainable doesn't mean it's not covered.
Right, so then bring it up to the Board of
Permeable,
Trustees.
non-permeable has no
But
issue with the
we have to
word
follow
coverage.
what is
Those are
here.
three separate terms.
But I also value your opinions on these things, so I'm not just trying to take it to somebody else. If it were wood chips,
One could say it's still coverage, because wood chips are a building material.
does the village currently count wood chips that are, say, along hedges and in gardens and things
I
as
would,
coverage?
if it's in a garden, maybe not, but if it's constructed to use as a patio, then yes.
Well, it's not used as a patio,
It's a
it's
mulch.
used this so you don't have mud puddles.
You know, it's this board's decision.
It's this board's decision.
Yeah, it's every application would have to lend itself. A footpath, I don't know.
This isn't a footpath.
No, I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying. A footpath would be more obviously.
Okay, can I take a photo of it and bring it into you and you can tell me what you think? Or you've
It's
already
up to this board.
Okay.
Also, we had,
The Pachysandra really won't grow in there because it's under a pine tree and it's in shadow. Yes, ma'am.
we had asked you to give us alternate locations, but we are not choosing which one you're just picking. You choose, and
I
we will
did.
tell you. Okay.
No, we're convinced that the pool should be here. We think any other location of the pool costs us plant shrubs, more extensive site disturbance. I think the origin of the idea of moving the pool was if we moved the pool down closer to the house, we could potentially use one of the existing patios to serve it, but if we get rid of the patio entirely that's with the pool, that doesn't seem to make sense. I know that a concern has been expressed from the neighbors of the distance and the visibility and all this, but if you actually go to the site, you cannot, and we did submit photos, and you can't see where we're gonna build the pool from the neighbors' homes.
Well,
They have, you can see the neighbor's pool fairly easily because it's not really screened. This pool is totally screened, will not be visible from either of the two neighbors' houses that are expressing concern.
What about the fences that are in the current shrubbery? Are you
We're not
thinking of
moving
using
those.
them? Or do you think that you're using them as part of the pool fence?
No,
Okay.
we're not touching them in any way. We're leaving them as they are. We're putting a new fence on the inside of that, running along it, and that will not be taking out any landscaping.
And the new fence, is that going to be far enough away or close enough to the pool to provide safety?
Well, it surrounds the pool. You can't get.
I'm
through
saying
the-
how far away from the pool is it going to be?
I guess the maximum, it's probably maybe 35, 40 feet.
In the front yard, it's quite, there's no fence around the pool.
There's no fence that's immediately around the pool.
Right. You have a fence that goes all the way out to the front of the house.
Right. So all the doors would have to be self-closing doors with latches.
Yeah. No, I want you to understand, that's a very large area to maintain and keep safe for the children in the neighborhood.
Would it be better to just put a fence around the pool?
I don't think it would be as attractive. I mean, the pool sits in a natural setting that's surrounded by, fairly attractive shrubs. Kind of putting a fence up on the inside of that, I think would be unfortunate. I'll take a look if we could weave a fence somehow in that foliage so that it would be something that would be less intrusive. I mean, this isn't a recreational area. This is a quiet place to go that gets great sun on a otherwise fairly densely wooded site.
Right, but your pool isn't enclosed, so you don't have any separation between, or division between the house and the pool.
Correct.
Right, so it's,
But that's very, I mean, I think all of the pools that we have done, where we're near enough a house, we don't have a fence between the pool and the house. We're walking from the house out to the pool. You have to have a gate, or you have to have a door that is set up a certain way so that it meets the code.
We had asked you for a few things back in November. We're still waiting.
What is it that you did?
The fence, the detail of what kind of fence you're putting up.
That's on our drawing.
Detail.
It's the existing fence.
That's the
Detail.
fence.
That's the one you're reusing.
The metal fence is down here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want to detail?
It would have to be on the plan
Okay.
to approve it.
And the drainage for the pool,
We have that on the plans.
and the, what else do we have here? You
I
have
just wanted to notes and
you have the different entry points, different to the pool.
We show all of the gates that would be in the fences on the drawings.
Shouldn't there be just one entry and exit?
I don't see why you'd want to have that.
No, I think we're talking entry points of the
Construction area.
construction.
Oh, the
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the top, yeah.
Yeah, we have, there are two
That will
construction
depend-
that we've shown.
That will depend on whether the neighbor gives you
Exactly,
permission or not.
exactly. And if they don't, we will take that off. If they do, we'll take off the other one.
And also, depending on what the neighbors have to say, the second one, is it wide enough for the construction?
Oh, sure. They're the same width.
Okay.
The width that we've drawn, we've actually shown that on the drawing, the width that it would be. We show what trees are nearby and how we're coming in between those trees and away from them. So this layout,
Okay,
that works.
so it's one of the, depending on how the neighbors feel about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Our preference would be to come in the short way because it's less intrusive. But we understand that necessitates the neighbor wanting us to do that.
And also, the added shrubbery to protect noise.
Well, I mean, one of the problems we have is that
Noise for the
I
neighbors.
have two issues, okay? One of them is that we have an incredibly densely planted buffer that's there now. So, and there's one little gap, which I showed a photo of where there's a gap, and we're taking two trees that are there now, two conifers, and we're moving those into that gap. So we will have about a 20-foot, almost 20-foot thick buffer of planting on our property to screen that. Part of the concern with the neighbors, I don't if that's what they're worried about, wouldn't it make sense for them to provide some screening for their pool? Wouldn't that give them the privacy that they're seeking?
Well, you're the one that's putting in the pool, so I think you have to provide.
Well, they just put a pool in on the property next door. So, I mean, I'm not sure.
It's in the wrong place. With the fence, it's in the wrong place.
Right. Which, Mr., I'll just say Mr. Panos, has not objected. I mean, he knows it's in the wrong place. He hasn't objected. He's, things like that happen. It doesn't bother him. And I understand now that that fence can't be the fence. We need two fences, even if they're adjacent to one another.
Right. And find out, your fence is on his property, so that.
His fence is on our
your property, I'm
property.
sorry. That has to be
makes a difference,
resolved,
I think.
yes.
Yeah, we're being accommodating. We're not encroaching on anything.
Well, it has to be all straightened out.
Sure.
George?
Well, I just have to say, I do remember having a conversation last time you were here, and it was basically in response to the letter from the neighbors. And one of the things about that is that I wanted to understand better, if there was a better location for this, that then would make their objections less for this. And I think you agreed to do that, and I was looking for it in my package. I'm not going to
That's
react.
okay, I'm not forcing it.
Yeah, I'm not going to react to it now, but I think that's something that beyond putting rectangle boxes,
on this was what I was expecting.
Right, there are two, what I have there, which I'm not trying to submit to you, certainly. There's one that shows where these other pool locations could be and why we don't think those are good. The other thing we have is a Google Earth photo, which shows what the extent of all the shrubbery and that is, and why, where we've located the pool.
All
is
that
in the one
sounds
spot.
good, it just was, that
You don't
was,
have it yet.
we were expecting it, and
Okay.
that's what you said. And so I think for me, I prefer to table this until you do that, and you submit it, and so that we can look at it.
That makes sense.
Submit the full, make the full submission rather than either or.
We're not in
We
the
mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully by that, we'll have that, until I have a definition from the neighbor, unless we just eliminate that as an option. I need to wait to where we have that sidewalk and we have input and we have an agreement, or we don't have an agreement. I didn't want to take that off until then, because it is a better way to do it.
Well, why don't you get all this together and for submission to us, go through Ed, he'll tell us when it's ready to go.
Right, and personally, I would appreciate if you did that and not come back until it's fully complete. Because
Okay, well, let's
from a
make-
personal level, I haven't had lunch yet, okay? So, and now I'm getting hungry.
In advance, I would have brought you a sandwich.
No, I would appreciate that this is not just a, work in progress thing. We talked about it last time, that we wanted you to come in with a comprehensive package. And what I'm learning is you didn't.
Well,
So we'd like you to do this.
We came in with a comprehensive package. We did not show something I think makes our case better. We were asked to provide the photographs, which we provided. We addressed everything that Tom
No,
had.
you didn't, because, look, now, you were supposed to work it out with your neighbors, and it didn't work out, so now you're saying it could be this or it could be that. You didn't come in with alternatives, you didn't do that. So, to me,
We're not
again,
gonna-
I haven't had lunch yet, okay?
Okay.
I would prefer if you were to put this fully together, like most others do, and then present it, so that we can react to it. You agreed to do that, and...
Right, we are not going to come into you with alternative pool locations. We're
You
gonna-
did, you came in...
Just did.
No, I didn't. I came in with something that shows why other pool locations don't make sense. I'm not
Okay, so
proposing.
you're not gonna do any more work on that? You expect
No,
us to...
I'm gonna submit it with the notes that show why those other locations are not better than where we have the pool.
Well, right now, what we want is a final site plan with everything that we have asked for since November.
Okay, so just so that I'm aware of it, because I wasn't aware last time, and that's my mistake. I didn't take careful enough notes. Other than the alternate pool locations, the detail on the existing fence,
And the
Fence
proposed
that
pool
will be
fence.
proposed.
well, we have the details of the
Proposed is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not understand that what we were looking for was the detail on the
Results
fence
in the
that's already done.
access.
And the drainage, the pool drainage.
Well,
But, man,
that's been addressed.
Yeah, working.
and note any reduction of coverage that you did.
Well, we haven't shown that on this, and I think hearing what not pertaining to this, but other conversations this evening, we're gonna make a cut, and I'm gonna suggest that to my client, and I think getting rid of the terrace up by the pool, I think that, yeah. I mean, we don't really have anything else that we're adding. I mean, the challenge here, I mean, if I look at the Goldsmiths property, they're at 134%, they're 34% over with a huge piece of property. We are a property that's 33,000 square feet, where 40,000 is required. The challenge we have is that this is an underscale lot. If I was a 40,000 square foot parcel, I'd be allowed 4,800 square feet. Coincidentally, if I get rid of the terrace and I take out the gravel, I'm at 4,800 square feet.
You have to work with what you have, not with what your neighbor has.
Thank you. Right,
I thought the concern you expressed earlier was precedent. That's not an issue? If the neighbor was given permission to
I think what you have, you know what?
We don't know when it was done. What is before us now is what we're working with.
Right. Well, Ed, when was Skip Goldsmith done?
Recently.
I think that.
I would like your client to be able to swim, so I would prefer if you could put a complete package together so we can react to it. That would be the best. For you, for me, and your client.
Sheila, I think somebody's here. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything, comments?
My name is Kate Roberts. I'm here on behalf of the Goldsmiths as well as the Minkoffs. I think the board covered most of our concerns. You guys got our letter pretty late today. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I think the board covered most of our concerns, and most of the concerns voiced in the letter were nothing new that you guys have seen. A lot of it was copied word for word from our last opposition letter. So hoping to see a site walk with the applicant and try to work out these details before it appears before you guys again.
That would be really appreciated.
Yes. We've tried a few times, and hopefully in the next month we'll schedule for
I think the way I looked at it, I'm available. I know
couple of
like I don't
weeks,
care.
so you have your submission.
My clients said that they've made them, they said that they would be available whenever it's a matter of getting.
And I've said I'm available at any time.
Okay.
We have to.
I can't beg to meet.
Thank you.
Everyone's available.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hillary?
No.
George?
The next item is 2016-19, Jacqueline Leonardo and Andres Sorolnik, 17 Matheson Park.
John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Jack Cyrilnik. This project was approved earlier in the year, or last year, and what we have submitted is a proposal to revise the project and expand what was previously approved. The footprint of the proposed addition on the rear is approximately the same as what was in front of you before. The change is there was a open porch in this area of the project that is now being proposed to be filled in this building. So there was a complete second story over the building there, and there was an open porch in that area. The kitchen has been relocated to improve the facade, and the space, and the kitchen was spanning across these two volumes, and now the kitchen has been relocated to improve that facade. The increase does not affect building coverage, but the building coverage was open, and now it is more enclosed. So we are going back to revise that variance. The building is underneath allowable FAR, so the increase of interior volume is not something that we're asking for variance, but we do need to revise the variance to take care of that change. I don't think there's much else that we're changing.
Did you see Doug Hahn's memo?
So
we went in there, a number of items
that was our mistake. We submitted this like a revision to the existing approved, so the site, the perk test and everything have been completed, calculations are completed, and the stormwater is all completed. It's just that it didn't go in Doug's package, so we'll get that to him. We're not planning to show any change to any of that approved material because the impervious surface has not changed.
Okay. I think that also, Lucille Muntz had a comment too, said there's a large oak that requires additional protection measures as the proposed patio is in the drip line of the tree. An arborist report and mitigation measures should be included in the final plans.
So again, the location of that patio hasn't changed from the approved, so I can review that with Doug and Ed to make sure that we have protections on that tree, and there hasn't been any change.
Yeah, but when you submit the original approved site plan, it shows all this.
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe those issues will be
I
addressed.
think because it
when you get
wasn't
to
in
the site
Lucille's
plan.
package, so she
Yeah.
couldn't see
Okay.
that those were addressed.
All right, so we'll get to that. Any comments from any of the board members? No?
Do they have to go to?
Let them go to the
So maybe
CBA.
CBA?
Okay. Any comments from anyone in the audience? No? I guess you can go to the ZBA.
With the, it's just a modification.
I'll send you the hour.
Right. So but am I coming back after to here?
You have to come back here.
Yeah, with the revised site plan.
All right.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
It's not going to be revised, but it'll just.
the site plan.
All right.
As part of the-
Well, you have to balloons.
Okay?
Should I have, just as a quick, should I have, the change the building footprint? Well, I guess it's the same.
It's the same, right? It's not committed, it's. We'll get you revised. We need to stamp a site, we need to stamp a site plan.
This is what you want to this kind of discussion.
May I have a motion, or is there any other business that the board members want to bring up? No? Then may I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.